Welcome to TM Radio Broadcasting. Today is Friday, November the 25th, in the year of our Lord 2022. We are live from Boston, Massachusetts. My name is Frank Allen. TM Radio Broadcasting is a listener-funded radio station. Donations may be made to the Allen Institute for Human Rights, who is our parent company, at aihr.foundation or at targetedmassachusetts.org. To receive our newsletter, go to targetedmassachusetts.org by desktop or laptop. There you will see a blue drop-down screen. You can add your email address there. If you'd like to call in and listen, dial 518-801-1318. If you'd like to call in and ask a question of any of the guests or myself, or join in for a few minutes, dial 617-987-8603. Tonight, we have the pleasure of introducing to you once again Tim from the United States military. And we also have Linda P. here. Once again, she was a guest in the past that just hopped on, and now she's a continuing guest. Okay, Tim, do you want to unmute yourself and let us know what's been going on? Go right ahead.
Yes, thank you so much, Frank, and thank you, sir, for all that you do for the targeted community. A lot of us don't have much left in our life, and we cling on to things like this to give us strength to get through another day. I've been through some really, really trying times in the last 3 or 4 months. As you know, the last broadcast that I was a guest on, I was attempting to live with my family. But unfortunately, after 3 failed attempts on my life by several of my family members, I had to flee and flee for my safety, hire a private investigator, hire a lawyer to try and mitigate some of the, the obvious slander and misrepresentation that's just destroyed my character.
Your own family. Can you tell me how this is happening? Were they trying to get you to enter a mental hospital or a medical unit, and you refused, or an attempt on your life by your family is really serious?
Yeah, and it's really, really sad. And my mother, she's in her 80s, bless her heart, and I've come to the conclusion that it's really not my mother, that she's being controlled by this technology. And I've gone through the kidnapping and the putting in mental hospitals and being abused in the mental hospitals themselves, the private ones at least. But there was a direct attempt on my life. One of my uncle's wife poisoned me, and I got so sick that took me. I thought I was going to die. I almost had to call an ambulance, and my whole family just sat there and just left me on the couch, walking back and forth, saying rude things to me. I had left the area. I fled the area, and due to the fact that I live in my truck, I can't go into town. It's basically dangerous for me to even get out and get gas or try and get food. Right now, I haven't taken a shower in probably close to 30 days. You get desperate. You get desperate, especially if you're being gang stalked, you're being followed, you're being hit by directed energy weapons. They hit me with toxic chemicals, which is, and I had stated this the first time, or the last time that I had spoke, that they have gadgets or rigs that they put underneath their clothing, usually on their hip belt. The maximum effective range is about 20 feet. They can walk by and when you go into a supermarket, they just walk by and spray you with it. It's very disorienting. It's called organophosphates, which is basically a high-grade or very potent form of cockroach killer. And they do use that in military. When it's militarized, that's where you get your sarin gas and other nasty things like that. They also have rigs in their vehicles which can either leak toxic gas or it can spray, depending on their setup, I guess depending on their rank, from their vehicles, a maximum effective range of about 200 to like 225 feet. And everywhere I went, hotels, places I tried to live, all the I was just followed and sprayed with this stuff. It was quite terrible, but and maybe I can get into this maybe a little bit further on in the show on how that they're using these directed energy weapons, how they're setting up around your house. They were just conspiring, meeting in secret, and putting Bluetooth devices around the house that were attacking my heart. And it just got to the point where I can go into a little bit about how the silent sound subliminal mind control works. This is not my mother. This is not my uncle. This is not the people that I knew when I was young. My mom is one of the most kind, caring persons on earth. But here she is, while I'm recording, meeting with the family, conspiring to basically take me out. It's devastating. It's devastating.
It's unheard of, but I hear it. This isn't the first time. We had one gentleman from the military, and he was put into a mental institution against his will, and his mother took over his money. And that went on and on and on. We all tried to help, and we could not do anything for him at the time. I wish the time was now, but that's what happens. Families change. Things change. If you scare them, which is very easy to do, and my reasoning is they don't want to catch it. It's psychological. It's human nature. They don't want to get it. So if they believe that you have it, they also have to believe that they can catch it. So they treat it more like a disease. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's gotten to the point, and these. What does the Bible say? Be wise as a serpent, but be as gentle as a dove. These are some of the most sneakiest people that I've ever heard of, and it's just really unfortunate. They did it to my grandmother over at Vendetta until she was 92, and she didn't have these. She didn't have the internet. She didn't have the. Any sort of support system. She was a single lady living alone, and they ran basically counter Intel Pro on my grandmother for decades. And right underneath, my family's noses, it only took me 10 minutes of being with her on her property. She would always say, "Who are those people? What are they doing?" If you're being gang stalked, you understand that people walking by with a dog, people coming on your property, people obviously out of the norm, their demeanor gives them away. It's just sad. And I would, as a lot of people might know, I've traveled. I've spent probably $30,000 traveling the U.S. I have a list somewhere, but I can't find it. Let's say Washington State, California, Oregon, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, Montana, Wyoming, South Dakota, North Dakota, Florida, Georgia, Massachusetts, Maine, and there's several others, and I've driven through probably, I don't know, 100 different cities, and what they say is correct. If you're being gang stalked, you're on a watch list, and they're just going to forward your information to the next county. I've been through trying to check into the VA hospital in LA. I have the full county, these fake road construction people. I've had trying to get into the VA in LA. They would literally cone off every avenue I could try to get some help at the VA hospital. They shut down entire freeways. I've had helicopters. I've had planes. I get the full gamut of the gang stalking, whatever you want to call it, venue. But it's just it's gotten to the point where I've been suicidal several times, and the only thing that's going to save, because that's what they're actually after, is your mind. It's a total assault on mankind. And AI is going against humanity, and your average person using a cell phone does not realize how much information they're giving to these supercomputers and quantum computers. And if it continues, I see no hope for the U.S. Looking at it from a military standpoint, I just don't. And I would highly suggest if you're a Christian, don't ever go to Portland, Oregon. I've never seen a more satanic, a bunch of witches. I mean, it's bad. It's quite bad in Portland. So.
Okay, there's a lot of, I won't say it's confusion, but there's a lot of activity concerning SIGNET, or signal intelligence. Can you clarify any of this for our listeners? The nature of these changes, or have you heard of it, or what?
Well, just curious. Tonight, because they're able to get me to say things a lot of the times that's either embarrassing or incorrect or untrue. I've gotten out of the danger zone, as I have been sending you some screenshots. There's over 200 networks. That means 200 computers or iPhones or whatever that are spying on me living in my truck, kind of on the outskirts of town. So, with regards to signal intelligence with the military, I can't comment, but what I wanted to sort of go over is what's turning your family into these, whatever I could say, or your friends or these people in these communities, into just heartless, may I say bastards, really is silent sound, subliminal mind control, and that would fall under signals, what we call the signals in the military.
Right.
And what they're able to do is they're able to send out a general field of frequency to the masses, and what we would call that in the military is HARP, high altitude repeating pulse, using piggybacking with ELF, or what's called ELF, extremely low frequency. But these devices have gotten smaller and smaller, and they're able to basically install them in a neighbor's house, or come onto your property and put these devices, which if you look at my screenshots, we can go over. The general broadcast or frequency, it affects people's emotions, it affects people's thoughts, their behaviors, and the radio frequencies or microwave signals use the entire spectrum of the radio frequencies. They can be used within a certain range to produce all different types of effects. Now, you got to understand, I just went through this in Portland, and I don't know how to describe it except that they were trying to connect this frequency to my brain, and I literally did not sleep. I think it was 25 days, being gang stalked, being hit with directed energy weapons, being sprayed with chemical attacks, and what it is, it's a frequency that they have, and it coalesces or combines with the individual's brain or their DNA itself. When these frequencies combine, it's almost like they've created a fiber optic network in between your brain and the computer, and they can. This is all displayed probably at the U.S. Air Force or the fusion centers, or they can actually basically control you. And it's transhumanism. It's basically, this is basically messing with the innermost part of human beings, their thoughts, their emotions. My mother turned into just the most vicious person, meeting with my uncle, meeting with their caretaker, while I'm watching from satellites, these guys placing these devices all over the home or around the home. Now, I'll send you, when I can, Frank, I'll send you from a digital standpoint exactly what it looks like for someone that's being gang stalked. We'll give you a digital forensics. I'm working with a private investigator and a few others. But it's just these systems, and I'm going through this right now. I hear a modulating tone or a frequency in my right ear all day, all night. And it's enough to make you want to put a gun in your mouth. But my faith in God and my military training, makes me soldier on. The subliminal mind control, what's affecting all these people, turning them into just heartless beasts. I listened to Marilyn, I listened to a couple of the other ladies that are heavily targeted, or you yourself, Frank. Who on earth could do this to another human? It's just unfathomable. The mind control runs on a steady tone of 15,000 hertz. That is picked up by a microphone with a hypnotist, a trained interrogator voice. Their voice is varying from 300 hertz to 4,000 hertz. That sound wave enters a frequency modulator, and what it does is it sends it to where only your brain can interpret. Your brain subliminally will hear the voices. It's not V2K, it's straight up mind control. Your brain will interpret the embedded hypnotism, but your ears will only hear. It's like a steady tone, like tinnitus. But what the problem is there's hypnosis embedded.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to say that this is based in hypnotism. And I don't care if you have a PhD. I don't care what you have. This is based in hypnotism, and I know it. And I think that you probably know it too. You have to, because you're deep in this.
No, and I agree, Frank, and I do apologize if I'm not as well spoken tonight. I'm working by a flashlight, kind of in the middle of a field. And as I was saying, your brain can pick up the subliminal messages, but your ear only hears like a tone or a buzzing or a ringing sound. And it's very important. And I consider myself at least a relatively intelligent man. And I watched my mother, her behavior, and literally I had the military guys coming to try and extract her from the premises, and for me to just to leave. But unfortunately, she's grown. She's got the whole family on her side. Now it got to the point where, I was going to lose my own life if I stayed. But the output, after it goes to a frequency modulator, the hypnotist, interrogator, whatever you want to call it, is putting through these subliminal sounds, which only your brain can pick up. The output of this can be via open air broadcast. That would be your HARP, your high altitude repeating pulse, with a piggyback signal of extremely low frequency, or ELF. But very important, this can come through your smart TV. Actually, it can come through any TV. They can piggyback these signals on TV or radio signals. The U.S. patent for this technology is 515-9703. Once again, 515-9703, October 27th of 1992. It's when you start, and I'm experiencing this every night. And it's all very satanic. They want to get me to praise Satan, or give my life over to the Rothschilds, and really the only thing a radio frequency jammer will handle all this, or the majority of it. But my belief in Christ, it's been a tough few months, but we really have no choice, do we? We kind of have to endure.
We have to fight.
The torture.
We have to fight, and we have to fight like hell, because this is going to get into our kids. It's going to get into our grandchildren and their kids. And this is why we have to get the word out. This is why I like people like yourself to come on here and basically risk your life, I would say. Because I've seen maps that show insurgents all around you. And it's to the point where you're not even in your truck right now. Probably you're outside, you say, with a flashlight. You see, you're in a position where you like to move, and I can see why. Because I don't know what you know, but I think you know something that they don't like, because they are really working on you. But anyway, I would like to introduce Linda P. She's in the background, and we'll see if there are any questions that she would like to ask you. And Linda, if you could.
I'm on.
Okay, go ahead, Linda.
First of all, Tim, I'm so sorry for what you're going through. I think all of us feel your pain and hurt when we hear somebody talk about what's happening to them. So I have heard a few different times about that tinnitus that you get, because I get that as well, that there's actually some type of, if you slow it down, that you would be able to hear a message. Is when they're doing this to you, does it make you act differently? Because I don't think I can be controlled that way.
Well, it has it depends. Like I showed Frank a digital map of basically me being surrounded and having 200 networks. And basically, if you can think of it like this, if you understand how V2K works, right, voice to skull, they just turn it down to a subliminal level. And no, they'll never be able to get me to hurt someone. They'll never be able to get me to set someone up. They'll never be able to get me to bear false witness, spread rumors, do any of these things. But they can Because these guys are basically like, I've been camping out on Bureau of Land Management land, and these guys, there's a crew of like 10 people sitting around all day and all night. What they can do is they can prompt me to go to the store, or they seem to be able to do that to me. And when I go to the store, they're waiting. I get sprayed, or I get hit with directed energy weapons. They can agitate me to the point where I don't want to say I can go off on someone that really doesn't deserve it. Well, let me say the person really does deserve it, but they can make me lose my bearings sometimes. That's the full extent. Now, they were the best way I can try to describe it is they were trying to sink my brain to this in Portland, and I had left my family's home, and I tried to live on the streets and check into a homeless shelter, which I've never seen so many zombies in my life. I mean, they can control these people like robots. That's the extent that they can get me to do, and because I'm sealed by God, I'm sealed by Christ, and I've been studying the Bible for 25 years, and I put my faith in Christ. They can put thoughts in my head like I don't want to say it out loud, but I give something to Satan. I praise Moloch, and I give my whatever to the Pope. They can do sort of things like that, and I have to understand the technology, understand that God knows the difference between my thoughts and the thoughts that they're trying to put in my mind. But you're very fortunate, ma'am. You have a strong mind, but a lot of people, they just made these people into zombies. I don't know how to better put it, but they're controlled by satellites and technology, and I don't know if there's any going back. So I hope that answers your question.
It does. Also, it kind of makes sense that you were saying that it's a satanic based cult, because so I go to church regularly, and I think I get hurt. I get attacked worse when I'm at church or when I'm trying to sleep. That's when it gets the worst. And I noticed a couple times recently that so I'm Catholic, so there's a portion of the Mass when they say, that take this, with the bread, how we broke the bread, and do this in remembrance of me. And, in my mind, I have my own prayers that I say. And apparently I must have completely had everything else out of my mind. And instantly it stopped. It picked right back up once I got back in my car. But it must have just been that I was able to just clear them just for that last 15, 20 minutes. This last Sunday, this last Sunday I was at church, and it was another thing, and they try to make you not focus on what's happening by the distraction of the tinnitus, right? And the constant eardrum, the bouncing of the eardrum, causing that pressure, and a headache a lot of times. And all of a sudden, it was this past Sunday, there was this loud, it was like electrical things, and it hit the ceiling above me, and everything stopped, and it left me for several hours. It wasn't until I fell asleep that night that they got it back in me. So I don't know if this cult thing is losing to our faith.
What I can tell you, ma'am, is this is high tech Satanism and witchcraft. If you guys would, I'll drop a few names. If you guys would like to, I've been a recent victim of what's called satanic ritual abuse, and
Mm.
his name is Zeph Daniels, ZephDaniels. He has a YouTube channel. He was from a very prominent family in Hollywood, and he really goes into the spiritual aspects of gang stalking. You know, these people are pedophiles, they're Satanists, and if you understand witchcraft, you know, it's high tech Satanism, and the people that are in control, the people that, you know, are in office, a lot of them are Satanists. Hollywood, full of Satanists. The music industry, even worse. I've gotten to the point in my spiritual walk that I've approached the Amish. You know, I don't see any need for any of this technology. It's just feeding the beast. And once they give breath, like Revelation 13 says, to this system, it's gonna take over mankind. And by the way, nighttime is when these witches and their covens, that's when they do their rituals and cast spells. So why you're attacked at night, number one, is so you don't have any sleep to degrade you and demoralize you, make you feel so tired that you can't think straight, where this technology can take hold. It's also like 3 a.m. is the witching hour. So they love to do this stuff at night, not only to break you down physically, mentally, morally. And I'm telling you,
Tim?
Christ.
I just wanted to interject. Know who you are. Know that you're a good person. And if you feel like you have already been captured, regain your life. It's your life, no one else's. And they are trying to live their life through yours for whatever reason. Go ahead, Tim. I have a technical difficulty I have to take care of. I'll be back in about 30 seconds.
Yeah, and, you know, through the just the process of watching my mother, these signals are coming through your iPhones, your cell phones, and through your TV, and it's really a pity that my mom is so addicted to this technology. An iPhone, what a you know, with a bitten out apple on the back. What a disrespect to God. And she's a Christian. I would get her away from the TV and get her away from her cell phone and her tablet. And I would highly recommend, and they sell them on Amazon. It's called Nano Tech blockers. You can put them on your cameras for all your devices, and she would just literally snap out of this being a horrible person. She would start saying, "Well, son, you're not feeling well. Can I get you a Tylenol? Can I make you something to eat?" This completely different person. And really, with my military training, I could have debriefed her with a rubber band in about 2 days, but it got to the point where, you know, they attacked my heart with directed energy weapons, sleeping on her bed. So, you know, at some point you got to think of yourself. So, I don't know if you have any more questions, ma'am, or.
So, is it that they're trying to bring you to them, or just like Frank says, live their life through yours?
Well, a lot of these people are what you could call bots or robots. They're controlled by technology. They spend their entire life looking into a camera, looking back at them. And I was very fortunate. I'm one of my best friends in the military used to install high-tech surveillance systems for, like, in Las Vegas. And I also knew some people that worked on some of the vetting processes of the Iraqi soldiers. I don't know anything top secret, but these cameras they're dangerous. And all sorts of signals, all sorts of things can be done through these cameras, especially when your eyes are looking directly into a camera. So I would highly suggest for all TIs that they block both their forward and back cameras. Just look up nano blockers, nano camera blockers, and they have, it's like $10, and you can put these in. It shields you, especially if you have nanotech or some sort of heavy metals that you've ingested or through your life. They can just turn some people into robots, unfortunately. So they're not trying to live through my life. They're trying to destroy my life. They're trying to infect every relationship because they're Satanists. That's what witches do. They make you sick. They destroy your life. They spread rumors about you. It's basically high-tech witchcraft.
Okay, that's an interesting view.
May I ask one more question?
Sure, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
And this is to both of you. So I believe in the anti-nano bucket. I don't know if either of you have any experience with that.
Yes, I do, ma'am.
Anti-nano bucket.
Do you find?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, if you explain it, is it an electrolysis unit that involves water?
It does. So they're very simple to make. You get yourself a 5-gallon bucket and copper wiring, and you go all the way around the bucket, and then you attach a power source to it so you can plug it in. And then what you're using, there's been different recipes, but basically a lot of them include distilled water, vinegar, and salt, and what is it, DSMO, I think. And when you put your feet in the bucket, you're supposed to keep it at least a half hour, and it'll pulsate. That's how you know it's working, and it's supposed to draw all of this stuff out. So Frank, I'll see if I can find the link to it, but that was my Mother's Day gift from my son, was my anti-nano bucket.
Okay, that's fantastic. We need people giving gifts like that. We need more people giving gifts like that. That's wonderful.
Just quickly, ma'am, I've hired, because I'm completely disabled, and that's all I'll say about that, but I had hired a caretaker / bodyguard that traveled with me for about 6 months, helping me do counter surveillance and so forth. But he had a nano bucket. I've used it myself, and I've seen him use it, and I've seen I can't remember the name of it. I think it's called graphene. He would use it for half an hour on his legs. And he'd pull his legs out, and there was all this black goo, which he said was the nanotech. So he always felt, and he used that in a combination with borax, and it seemed to give him a lot of relief.
Okay, that's interesting that you should bring that up, because that could be the cathode eroding, or pardon me, the anode eroding. The black material, but I guess this is something we're going to have to look at. Linda, did you notice where this black material is coming from?
I didn't get a black material, but there's definitely something that's coming out, because you definitely feel better after. And because of my traveling week, I haven't been able to do it. Should be able to do it, but I know other people who do it regularly and have noticed some silver stuff coming out, not necessarily black. So I wonder if it's just different things that they're doing to different people.
Well, you have a veritable chemistry set within your body, and the perps themselves are able to do many things with the ingredients that you have in your own body. And this goes back to witchcraft as well. This is how they make you feel bad. They know that you produce stomach acid and they try and produce more. So what I tell people to do in that case is drink like 2 to 3 glasses of water and take an antacid pill and drop the acid out of your system because it'll destroy you. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, I was
No, I was. Go ahead, ma'am. Go ahead, ma'am.
No, the only other thing I would say, that's great, the water and the acid, but even having something as small as a cracker every 3 to 4 hours and let the body naturally produce that mucus to protect itself.
That's correct. The stomach is lined, and once this lining has worn off for whatever reason, the acid has a chance to actually attack the real stomach walls. I guess it's a gelatinous material that lines your stomach. Yeah. But you would know more about that than I.
And that mucus is produced during the digestive process, so it can protect itself.
Right.
So, you don't want to... A lot of the gang stalking does make people put weight on. And so you don't want to have a lot of stuff, a lot of food, but you want to have something every 3 to 4 hours if this is happening to you, just so you can let as much natural, let your body work naturally as best as it can.
Well, that sounds great. We need some, you know what we need? We need some callers to come in and spend a few minutes or ask a question. Dial 617-987-8603 and spend a few minutes with us. We have Dr. Linda and we have Tim from the U.S. military. And he has always brought back some very interesting information. Unfortunately, this time he is really up against it. And it's terrible to see you that way. It really is. And I just wanted to bring this up. I brought it up twice now, but I'm going to bring it up again. If you go to see Maverick Top Gun, it's put out by Paramount, they use V2K through the use of radar. They have an F-18 crashing, almost. And so Maverick goes in and locks on to the craft and uses V2K, voice to skull, because this guy is out of it. He is vibrating this whole plane with voice to skull. So you really have to see it. But that's
interesting.
Yes, it is very interesting. And if you look at Dr. Frey, his first contact, I would say, with V2K it wasn't in front of a radar unit, it was behind it. It was one of his men that was working for him at the time. But there's a lot that we don't know, but that's getting smaller and smaller all the time. We have a lot of TIs coming forward. We have a lot of TIs working to come up with countermeasures, and that's what we need. We have Liz at TIville. She is in school, and she is knocking them dead with her grades, and she's studying neuroscience. So she is really doing well. We have a lot of people, a lot of great people. We have Dr. Robert Duncan, and I emphasize Dr. Robert Duncan, who has been with us, I think, since 2000 and I want to say 8 or 9, something like that, very early on. And he has come up with information. He has gone to the New York Times to fight for us. And I just like to, if I was wearing a hat, I would definitely take it off to him because he's quite a gentleman. But I guess we need to thank all of these people who are spending their time, and they have been doing it for decades. And I just like to say thank you to them.
I was going to offer some very cheap and easy to use countermeasures to voice the skull. Is go and buy yourself a small little iPod. They sell them at Walmart quite cheap. Download 20 or 30 of your favorite songs and make sure that you know the words to the songs, because they can piggyback on a lot of signals, drive you crazy that way. And when never try to get into a debate with this machine or these operators. Just plug in some tunes. When your tympanic membrane or your eardrum, I believe it is vibrating or engaged, it drowns out the V2K, and you can turn a negative experience into a positive, uplifting experience, whether that's listening to Christian music or your favorite tunes as a youngster, or you can get what's called a noise cancellation device. They use them. I know they use them at the VA and other hospitals when they're doing, private conversations where people are within earshot. That'll drown out the V2K. Also, if you're in dire straits and you have nothing else, turn on your shower or turn on your water faucet. You can sit next to it, and that'll drown out the sound waves, because all frequencies can be interrupted, all frequencies can be jammed, all frequencies can be manipulated. Anything that gives off a radio frequency can be manipulated. And it's like, if you think about it, it's one sound wave being the V2K, and the other sound wave, how do I explain this? It's like a wave coming into the beach and a wave coming from the beach going out to the ocean. They peak and meet, and it scatters that signal. So I wish I would have known that earlier. I started when they were V2K me. I just put in my iPod. Now I'm jamming to my favorite tunes. And you can't listen to. It's very difficult for your mind or your eardrums to interpret both signals at once. So that's a real easy and cheap way to beat the V2K, at least in my experience, if that helps anyone.
I'm sure it will. If you can send that link to me, I will make sure that link goes into our Sunday newsletter. In other words,
the link for what?
They're actually all your own songs. Okay, I was thinking of something else, but yeah.
No, I would suggest this. Whatever you liked in high school, whatever makes you happy, whether that be spiritual music or the Rolling Stones. Do your own playlist, and you only have to really have it in one ear, and you could sit at your laptop and run a business and fort the V2K, because it's hard to the sound waves from the actual earpods in your ears is a stronger wavelength than the V2K, and that's all you're going to be able to interpret to your brain. So it's just a real cheap countermeasure.
Well, that's what we need in the community, is a real cheap countermeasure, because David Rubles, God bless him, he's continually working on a countermeasure, but it's a $3,500 countermeasure. That's the last price that I heard. And I would like to fly down and test it out again. But what I'm hoping for is somebody in the Northeast who has purchased it. But I definitely thank you for that inexpensive countermeasure. I have.
Yeah, no worries, Frank.
I've tried every audio type of countermeasure, I think, but I have one that I'll send you. It's TikTok. One's at 34 beats per minute, and the other one is at 31 beats per minute. And if you put them all together at the same time on two different devices, the perps can't use the V2K because it makes them want to slow down. You have to experience it.
Yeah.
You have to try it once. Some people can't listen to it. I can, but some people actually cannot listen to it. But give it a try. 34 beats.
Okay.
It's a YouTube standard. Look up metronome. And 34 beats per minute and 31. Those are the ones that work the best. One on one device and one on the other device.
It just and two, and I've heard other people say like this stuff can't be jammed. It can't be. Well, I don't see the Pacific Fleet hiding in the south of China. Being V2K'd. This is all this stuff can be jammed. The problem is I live in my truck and I can't even get gas, let alone order any sort of sophisticated equipment to give me the spectrum range that I need to know what wavelengths are coming in. It's like two waves crashing against each other. It just breaks up the signal. When we were in the military, we had things on devices on the front of our and back of our Humvees, and you jam in and jam out. You jam the harmful signals on the way in, and you jam on the way out. So, it's just, unfortunately, I don't have my hands on that sort of technology. But you can buy pretty sophisticated jamming devices over Amazon that you could use on your own private residence. That would jam. I don't know if it will jam a V2K. Who knows where V2K is coming from? But what I can say is that you could build a V2K module from reverse parabolics. Anytime that you reverse a wire from negative to positive, positive to negative on a speaker, it becomes a microphone. So you might be able to spend $100 on Amazon and build your own little V2K device, which is kind of disgusting. When I hear, especially women being tortured like this, it makes me want to hurt people. But I know that's really not that we don't promote violence, but it's very difficult sometimes, especially my 80-year-old mother.
That makes me want to hurt people when I hear that. How can you pick on a woman who has given her life to her family and to her country, and to do these things to her at her age? It just makes me nuts. It does. I can't explain.
Well, unfortunately, this mind control that a lot of these perps are under, they can take away their sympathy. They can take away their empathy towards others. And it's really, unfortunately, the American way. I mean, I don't know about other people's experiences, but when I went to high school, people would click up or gang up into groups, and they would pick out a poor person, usually what we called a nerd, someone that was a little bit different, that didn't have the money to dress like the rich kids, or just wasn't a good athlete, and they would just torment them, and they would gang up on them, belittle them every day, torment them every day, make false rumors about them to destroy their reputation. That might be part of the pecking process of becoming an adult. As a teenager, as a youth, you might not not know better or have guidance from a strong family. But these are adults. I mean, I would try to go. I would rather get into a firefight than go into Walmart. I go into Walmart. I'm sprayed with organophosphates. Now I have no sort of situational awareness. I'm not aware of what's going on around me. I can't see. I'm starting to feel so sick that I can barely stand. And they parade these young, like 10, 12-year-old girls dressed like hookers while someone's videotaping it. I know other targets have gone through this, and these are adults that have no right of even being anywhere near children. You know, they're indoctrinating them into the gang stalking system, the New World Order, I guess. It's just, it's a pity.
New World Unorder. I don't see anything in order about it. It's this world is going to get a good shakeup before the people accept all of this. We've accepted everything too long. People have gone to work every day and come home for too many years. Take a month off someday when we can all afford it and go to Washington, D.C. and protest the hell out of that place. I'll tell you, it's getting bad. Really is getting bad. But on a happier note, this is really a great show tonight, and I'm very happy to have you join in with us, Linda. That was a very unexpected pleasure, and my jaw is killing me as my work gets slowly done, but it's it's one of these things you have to wait. You have to wait, you know, and it's coming along, slow but sure.
So, Frank?
I wanted to... Oh, go ahead, ma'am. Go ahead.
Oh, I just, what I feel like the community needs to hear on a regular basis is, you know, you're giving some great advice, and the whole thing is to empower yourself. So you're taking the control away from the gang stalkers. You're taking the control away from them, and you're controlling it yourself by listening to the music. Because I've done the same thing. I put the earbuds in, and I'll listen to that. I've listened to the David Case CD, and you know, things that and I am telling you, I fight these people tooth and nail. They're getting nowhere with me. Yes, they're irritating, but the whole thing is they will never take my spirit away. And this is by fighting this and empowering yourself, you are going to minimize any possibility of hopelessness, because they're looking for hopelessness in you.
Yes, they are. That's human nature.
Yep.
Have a couple of them size you up, look for weaknesses, and then attack. Well, I would like to thank you, Tim, and I'd like to thank you, Linda, very much for joining in. I'd like to thank our listeners, our supporters, and I would like to say good night from Boston, Massachusetts. My name is Frank Allen.